So that you watch season 1 of them and are still traumatized by all that imagery and are concerned if you should check out season 2 or not? Well, let's talk about it. My name is Brandon Keith Avery, and this is just my opinion. Hey, what's going on, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Just My Opinion for my Them Season 2, This Scare Series review on Amazon Prime. If this is your first time finding me and you happen to like the video, please give me a thumbs up and consider subscribing. All right, guys, we are back. It is that time again for Them Season 2. Season 1 debuted on Amazon Prime back in 2021. But now, April 25th of 2024, you can watch the whole 8-episode series. Want to let you know that this is TVMA for that mature audience. If you are squeamish, if you do not like a lot of blood and broken bones, this show is probably not for you. But a good thing I will say is it's only 8 episodes and they're not even an hour long if you want to binge through something. Each episode is only 30 to 45 minutes long and you can fly straight through the whole thing. Now, this is being directed by Mr. Little Marvin. He is the director, writer, and creator, showrunner of the whole series. He was responsible for season 1, and like I said, he is also responsible for season 2. If you're interested, there is a roundtable interview on the AFCA channel, the African American Film Critics Association, and he does give his 2 cents on the making of this series, and I think you should check it out if you do get a chance. Now, when it comes to this series, of course, I did watch season 1, and going into this series, I was like, oh, it is an anthology series. It's taking place in a completely different time period than season 1. You don't have to see season 1 in order to understand season 2, and I will talk about that later on during this review. Also, guys, I was traumatized. I still have PTSD from season 1, especially that episode 5. If you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. If you haven't seen it, please proceed with caution. And I thought about this for a long time. This is no hyperbole. This is no exaggeration. But I really can't think of anything worse that can happen to a woman, especially a black woman, that happened in season 1, episode 5. It is one of the most disgusting things that you can imagine to happen to a woman. Seriously, I cannot think of anything worse. If you're going to talk about it in the comment section, please put spoiler tags so you don't ruin it for anybody else. But with me being traumatized from season 1, especially that episode, when I first saw the trailer for season 2, someone sent it to me. I was like, oh no, I'm not going to be a part of this time. I am stepping away. I do not want the smoke. I was saying to myself, there is so much other material that I can cover on this channel that will not affect my mental health and not allow me to fall asleep at night. But I don't know, for some reason at the last minute, I got an opportunity to see the series and I decided to at the last minute. And of course, if I enjoyed myself or not, I'll talk about that in my review, but I am surprised. I will say that right now. But before I get into all the nitty gritty, before I talk about all my likes and dislikes, let me tell you exactly what this Them Season 2 is all about. Them, the Scare, centers on LAPD homicide detective Don Reeve, who was assigned to a new case, the gruesome murder of a foster home mother that has left even the most hardened detective shaken. Navigating a tumultuous time in Los Angeles with a city on the razor's edge of chaos, Dawn is determined to stop the killer. But as soon as she draws closer to the truth, something ominous and malevolent grips her and her family. All right, guys, the first thing that I want to talk about and that I actually love about this series is it does not remotely compare to season 1 at all, remotely. Not as far as quality is concerned. It is just as good, if not better, than season 1, but I'm speaking of all of the ridiculous black trauma porn that was saturated all over season 1 that may give people nightmares. There was just too much imagery, too many scenes in season 1 that really made you uncomfortable, that really made your skin crawl, and you really had to seek therapy after you watched certain scenes in season 1, and it was just terrifying. It was traumatic. That is saying it lightly. In my opinion, there is nothing remotely close to that in season 2. Now, I don't know if Little Marvin, the creator of the series, actually paid attention to the reviews, the recaps, the reactions, listen to the fans and their opinions of season 1, just saying, hey man, what you did in season 1 is just too much. I'm having freaking nightmares from what I just watched. If you do a season 2, you need to dial it back, buddy. You need to dial it back. Now, I don't know if he was influenced by other people, outside sources, or he had the idea himself, but he did take note and dial things back a ton, with it still being a mature rating, not some watered down PG-13 horror thriller show on Amazon Prime. You still have a lot of gratuitous blood and guts going all over the place, but it's not as bad as season 1 slightly, and I will say that does help season 2 much better in my opinion. Now, season 1 had racism and season 2 does have racism as well. So if you don't want to see black people being terrorized in a sense or going through police brutality, you may want to stay away from season 2. It's not too heavy in my opinion, but it does have that content inside. I just want to let you know. It's during the 1990s, 1991 for the most part to be specific, during the Rodney King beating era. And so if you are sensitive, like I said, to that type of thing, please proceed with caution. But at the same time, that is what makes the story so great in season 2, because when a lot of us are familiar with that story, the black people did not trust the cops at all. It was chaos, it was mayhem all in the streets, just distrust everywhere. And when tensions are high like that, when you also throw in a potential serial killer going around the neighborhoods, destroying bodies as if they were hit by a train, which they said in the trailers, that is going to make things that much more entertaining if that's the type of media that you want to consume at home on your streaming platforms. So again, racism with police brutality mixed up with the serial killer, whew, that's a lot, but that may be what the doctor ordered for a lot of you guys out there just wanting something new to watch. Now, within this 8 episodes, one of the first things that I noticed that just stood out, and whoever is responsible for this should get some type of recognition, some type of accolades, but that goes to the sound mixing, the sound design. It was stellar. It was like a character in on itself. I love the way that the sound came through, whether it was the sound of a door opening or closing, characters walking through a house and stepping on shards of glass, or just a cone of silence, and out of nowhere, you hear someone screaming at the top of their lungs. It was jump scares from an audio standpoint, not a visual. And for me, that's something that I'm not used to. It was fresh in my taste, and I really did like and appreciate it. I do get scared easily, and so I was jumping here and there every once in a while. But for my diehard horror fans, it may just not do anything for you through one ear out the other. But for me, at least, it was very, very effective. So for the sound department, shout out to Jorge Del Val, Daniel Douglas, Josh Murphy, and Troy Primus. Another positive note about this series is the soundtrack. Like I said, it takes place majority in the early 1990s, and every 5 to 10 minutes they was dropping bar after bar after bar. I was singing my behind off with all these melodies and tunes, so I did like that. If you want to reminisce on some old school rap and R&B or whatever the hell it was that they was playing, I dug it. I loved it. It was jam after jam after jam, like I said. Another great thing about the series is they do a marvelous job of setting up the villain or villains. You do not know who is behind the scene pulling all the strings, whether it is a human being or a supernatural entity. And as far as human beings are concerned, they throw so many hints at you. There's so many Easter eggs with you trying to figure out this puzzle and put it together early on, especially in the first 4 episodes. In one scene, you may think it's this person. In another scene, you may think it's that person. Or in the next episode, you may think that it's these 2 people or maybe 3. And then again, do not forget that supernatural element to it that they throw in there as well. You don't know who is responsible, but you're very, very excited trying to figure it all out. And there are a number of main characters in this series, and some of them don't even meet until the later half of this series. And that's just another great aspect to this series. When you're watching it with a giant question mark over your head, asking the question of who done it, who did it, and where are they coming from. And the tension is very high in this series as well, especially towards the end of each episode. It's great that you get to binge it. Sometimes some series you're like, oh my gosh, they should have these released week to week. But sometimes I think it's great for you to binge it. In my opinion, I think that Them Season 2 is a great binge, but something like Fallout that is on Amazon Prime 2, that may have been better if you can watch that week to week. But let me know in the comments what you prefer. Do you want to binge some things week to week, or do you like a mixture of both? Another great thing about this series, and this may have been the best, is how they represent and depict generational trauma, man, it is prominent all over this series, especially when you get the final reveal in the season finale. And if you didn't know, generational trauma, also known as intergenerational or transgenerational trauma, is the idea that trauma can be passed down from generation to generation through biological, environmental, psychological, and social means. It can occur when a group experiences a traumatic event, such as abuse, discrimination, natural disasters, racism, or war. These events can cause physical and emotional outcomes, such as anxiety, depression, heart disease, post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, suicide, severe obesity, drug and alcohol use, cancer, stroke, absent parents, and disconnection and instability. Again, the way that was depicted, the way that was portrayed in this show was some of the best in this entire series. I loved it, and it spoke volumes in my opinion. And of course, we got to talk about the characters. The main one here, Miss Deborah Oriende. She played Detective Dawn Reeves, and she did a fantastic job. I love when she first stepped onto the scene. She had a bit of authority in her presence, in her aura, and she was respected. But she was going through a number of things as well. You can tell that there was a lot of trauma passed on to her from the past generations, and it was sad to see, but the way that she expressed herself and acted on screen was great, and I really do enjoy seeing her when I pop up from here and there in different forms of entertainment. If you did not know, she also played a different character in season 1, so she was there in season 1, coming back again to season 2, again playing 2 completely different characters. I will talk about that more in my spoilers review for this series and my ending explained video, so make sure you subscribe and go check that as well. Link will be in the description of this video and also the pinned comments. But she was a great lead in this series, and it's very obvious to me why Little Margaret wanted to bring her back for season 2 as well. She was very passionate about her job, very passionate about her role, and was smart for the most part. She did make a decision at one point in the series that really did grind my gears. But at the same time, she's not perfect. She's a human being, and sometimes as humans, we do make mistakes here and there, but it really did piss me off. But hey, nobody's perfect. We all have a bad day at the office. I just like how driven she was and how much she loved her job and how much she paid attention to the small details so that she can come out with the best outcome on whatever scenario she was in. Now, I'm not saying that she had the best performance in the world or the best performance so far of 2024, but I can say from the little that I have seen from her in them season 1 and 2, I'm a fan of her work. And whenever I hear her popping up in something else in the future, it will gain my attention and I will want to check it out just because of her and her talents. Also, I do like Detective Reeves because the amount of things that she has to go through. We as Black people always have to go through these microaggressions of racism with people that we work with. But in this series, there really wasn't microaggressions, there was macro. I mean, her coworkers are calling her a black bitch just because she wants them to move out the way so that she can park in her parking spot. Her old partner was like, little people like you, they get a little bit of authority and then they want to take over the place. I mean, it was just so many scenes like that in this series, so I just wanted to vomit out of disgust in the way that we're treated sometimes. Next, we got to talk about Luke James, who played Edmund Gaines in this series. And I've never seen him before either, but he did a great job too. The brother really did creep me out. And he needs to go to school and get a PhD in social skills because he has none. This is a very, very awkward person. You don't know if he's responsible for these killings or not. And of course, I'm not going to spoil that for you here, but he is a character that you always want to make sure that you have in your peripherals because you just don't know what he is capable of, if he's the nicest guy in the world or would just snap like this at the drop of a hat. You just don't know, and I like characters like that to where you just don't know where they are on the spectrum as far as the mental space, the mental capacity is. And Luke James ate that up all the way. Every time he was on screen, I was uncomfortable and wanted to skip to something else that made me relax on the inside because he was making my blood boil. Now, as far as everybody else is concerned as the cast, those two did the best in my opinion. We also have the legendary Pam Grier in this series as well, and she did an okay job. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't the best thing either. It was okay. I've seen her do better, but she had somewhat limited screen time, but I still enjoyed her performance as well. Of course, we have other supporting characters in this series. They all did a decent job. They all did as well as they should have. As far as all the murders and the deaths in this series, they are really mysterious, and you don't know how the hell they're happening or who is responsible for them. And again, that sound design and mixing does intensify every time someone is dying. It just makes it that much more creepy when you're watching it, wanting to kind of turn your head away. Some are a bit more tragic than others, and there are a lot of deaths that happen off screen, but that's not to its downfall. I thought that was very, very effective and just adds more to the mystery on who is behind all of this. Out of the 8 episodes, I love the first 4. I thought they was dang near perfect as far as setting the tone and just really tailoring your expectations on what you may get from watching the trailer. It was just all highly entertaining, and I did not know what was happening next. But guys, those are the things that I really did like about the series, season 2 of them. Now let me talk about some things that I really didn't care for. And I just said that I really did love the first 4 episodes, but I really did love the first 5 episodes, except for the end of episode 5. Something happened to me to where I was just really scratching my head, screaming at the TV, saying to myself, why in the world would you do that? That does carry on to episode 6 and 7. And I did not like episode 6 and 7 at all. Everything that was great in the first half of the series just started to fall apart in episodes 6 and 7 to where things just got dumb, redundant, and did not make any sense. What made the first half of season 2 so great is you had so many loose threads, so many characters that was a part of this puzzle that weren't meeting together, and you was anxious. You was anticipating putting all these pieces together and for it to fit just like some nice puzzle at the end with glue. But there was just too many loose ends in episode 6 and 7. I was just saying, wait a minute. If this happened, that doesn't make sense. This doesn't add up. How is this possible? They did not think this through at all. And it was a real bummer. Now, again, it is very, very difficult to talk about without spoiling it. And I definitely don't want to spoil anything for you here. And I know you don't want me to either. So I have to tailor my words. Again, check out my spoilers review, my ending explain video. I became quite worried. I was just saying to myself, again, I don't know if this is a human being, a supernatural entity, or both. But I began to become really, really frustrated by the way things were unfolding and really felt like the last half of this series was rushed through. I mean, it honestly felt like the series was cheating. Like, hey, I know we don't make any sense because we have a bad script and you're just gonna have to figure it out for yourself because we don't want to or we're too lazy. However, episode 8 did play, and about halfway through episode 8, majority of everything did come together and started making a lot of sense to where it left me satisfied for the most part. I thought it was quite clever, and you will have to be patient. And again, like I said, I went into this series saying to myself, okay, you don't have to see season 1 for it to make sense. But in my opinion, it will make better sense to you if you do watch season 1. I know that is a tall order. I know that is a large, tall glass of water that you're going to have to drink. You're going to have to go through some uncomfortable scenes. But when the reveal finally came about in episode 8, I was like, oh, I see what you're doing there. That makes a lot of sense. And a lot of these loose ends are being tied off, and I began to be really satisfied, like I said. Now, every loose thread was not tied off with a pretty bow, but for the most part, they were. And again, I'm saying this for the 3rd time, you have to come watch my spoilers review, my ending explain video to know exactly what I'm talking about, because you would be pissed if I spoiled it for you. But overall, guys, I am satisfied with this series. I did enjoy it. It is toned down a ton from the black trauma porn that we got in season 1. So if that's the concern that you had, you don't have to have that in season 2 whatsoever. You don't have to worry about it. I'll go ahead and give my rating for this at the very end, guys. But for now, that is just my opinion. And I want to thank you so much for tuning in. If you did enjoy this video, if you did enjoy the series, please let me know down in the comment section below. And also give me a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. I'm less than 50 subscribers away at the time of this recording to hit 50,000 subscribers. And I can only reach that milestone with your help. Now, guys, if I had to rate Them, The Scare, Season 2 on Amazon Prime out of a 1 out of 10, I'll give this series a solid 7.5 out of 10, a solid 7.5 out of 10. It started out to be a huge mess, again, towards the second half of the series, to where it got me really frustrated, but they was able to pull things together towards the very end. I said, okay, that's very, very clever. It's just still some of those loose ends just was not tied off, and there was a large aspect that I'm just still not happy with. Check out my spoilers review, my ending explained video for a better explanation. But guys, again, I want to thank you so much for tuning in. And before you go, don't forget that my name is Brandon Keith Avery, and that's just my opinion. Peace.